Okay, it's 5:05 p.m. on Wednesday, August 12th.
Disconnected.
We're
USB speaker.
okay. I Ken did that. It wasn't doing that till he came in the room, so
Yeah, it's all Ken's fault. Make sure
it's
we
his,
get that in the minutes,
yeah,
okay?
right. We'll let the minutes reflect that it's his magnetic personality that's just setting it off, right? All the electronics are going crazy. We'll go.
Succeeded. Enter Bluetooth.
Excellent. We'll call the meeting to order at 5:05 p.m. We do not have a quorum currently, but hopefully someone will join and then we can approve the minutes. For the three of us that are here. So what we were hoping to have,
Which minutes are there?
the minutes for the joint session that we had, the forum.
July.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Have those been done? I don't think I've seen them.
Well, but at this point, we're not voting on them anyways.
Well, so let's table that then
Let's
for
just
sure.
table all that and move on to the substance so the three of us can go through that. Um, the main agenda item was a discussion about the next steps in the process. And I read into the record at the forum um, Chrissy's recommendations as to the next steps in the process of considering what we're going to do. Um, and the select board has asked us to before we consider going and
Disconnected. USB speaker.
like that thing. Um, before we go down the road and doing the loan application, the select board has basically said, look, it is most likely going to be if we do it connected to some kind of process where we're collecting data, which is one of the recommendations in the report.
Bluetooth connection succeeded. Enter Bluetooth.
And they don't want to proceed with the loan application until we know what we would do with the
Right.
money. So that's on hold for now. I did speak with
Loan application on the 70,000 or
on the 70, the loan application for the planning loan that we had talked
Mhm.
about at the last meeting.
right?
Yeah,
Why we already spent that money.
right. But we could borrow the money and we spent the money out of the town operating budget. What we talked about at the last meeting was we could borrow that money. It was 25% forgivable. We borrow it at 0% interest, no fees, and we use it to fund a testing program to collect data or other things, whatever we think in terms of the communication strategy laid out in the report as the next phase. So that's what the theory
I thought
was.
they were going to use it to actually fund 70,000.
Well, it is, but the
Yeah.
dollars are fungible. So if we didn't borrow that money, then we would have to take take more money, whatever that is, out of the operating budget of the town.
Right.
The recommendation we voted on was to specifically recommend, I think this was Rich's thing, that the town take out the money to effectively repay itself, recycle the money. And then repayment of the borrowed money would be specifically, we recommended come out of economic development funds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And Rich is fine with that from
yeah,
my
right.
most recent understanding.
That's specifically what we voted on, and there's not opposition to that within the select board. But the sense in the select board at the last meeting was, well, if there's more things to be done to consider whether to proceed with the water system, then maybe we understand what those would be. And then effectively we're recycling the money, if that makes sense.
Because then
Right.
you would borrow more, is that the issue?
No, we would borrow the 70 or whatever it was, 60, 70. I forget exactly what it was. Yeah. And then that money would then be a loan that we would not have to repay the loan unless and until we decided not to proceed, or we decided to proceed and started building the system, and then it could be rolled into that. Either way, once it triggered into repayment, we would get a 25% automatic forgiveness. So effectively, we're getting 25% of the money. That was the theory. We could take the money and just put it in the bank and decide not to proceed.
That's what I understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Select board has said that the report, Chrissy's report, had some specific recommendations, including a data collection program regarding the presence and extent of.
I guess I don't see the advantage of waiting. But why don't, we're gonna wait for something to happen, and then we're gonna take out the loan either way, That's what I did.
Well, I think we need a number from Chrissy as to what the data collection is going to be. And then I'd say full steam ahead with the loan at that point.
Yes, yes. That's the theory is give us a ballpark estimate, not a contract, not a commitment, not or anything.
Right.
Ballpark estimate, well, a recommendation as to a data collection program and a ballpark estimate of what that would cost. That's the and what Chrissy needs to do is get that from the hydrogeologist. That's not her.
Right.
That's
And
the
that's probably gonna happen at the next meeting, you think?
well, we're supposed to have had it tonight. She thought she could have had it tonight, but she said, I think it's just August eating up everybody's schedules. And she said, so I told her, I said, well, when I spoke to her earlier today, I just said to her, get it to us as soon as you can.
We're only talking a couple of weeks.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not, it's
yeah.
not processed. Yeah, right. That's
I mean, and this guy's not reinventing the wheel at this point either, right? He's got a lot of this data.
he's got a lot of the data, but I think the proposal and the point was, look, we know, for example, that there are water quality issues at these X locations, whatever the number was, 50, whatever the number was. If you were to try to do a more robust understanding of the scope and extent of issues with respect to water quality and or availability of water, what would you recommend to the town as a next step to really take a look at that? And how much would something like that ballpark cost could we expect? Because we could look at that and say, you know what, it's $1 million, we're not going to do it.
Yeah, no, we're definitely not.
Right.
And they wouldn't let us do it at that point.
Right. So what the select board said was, well, give us a ballpark, because if the answer is it's $1 million and we're not going to do it, then why would we even bother with a loan?
We
Yeah.
should, because we'll just be paying it back in 5 years.
Right. So
Right.
that was the point from the select board. So the second thing that was a recommendation was was to consider a more broad communication plan to try, because there's some concern. I mean, I think this is a legitimate concern that, a lot of folks in town have not yet, are aware of what was being discussed, particularly not just the residents of the town, but the second homeowners. So how do we communicate more effectively with them to say, look, this is what we're looking at. This is why we're looking at it. Here's the data that we have behind it, and answer questions. In other words, having we had, Ken, what do you think? A dozen people, maybe at most, at that forum, if that, yeah. That doesn't give people a lot of comfort.
Yeah,
It certainly doesn't give the select board members a lot of comfort regarding the,
yeah, we haven't got
Right.
a real participation at any of the meetings.
right. So I think we need to have some consideration of that next step to say, all right, well, how do we take what we've heard, those of us that have been actively involved, and make sure that that's communicated more broadly. So
Take it down in paper, saying we think it's going to debt for $110 million, show up at the meeting.
that'll get people's attention, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Good
not in a
news.
good way though.
Yeah, right. The good news is it's not 110. It's half of that.
Yeah,
Right.
I
So,
tell you,
yeah,
it's a problem. It's when the sewer board took out, was it $5 million?
Yeah.
bond.
nobody paid attention until you took out the money. 66 people. Yeah, right.
Right. That's the problem with this stuff, is people don't pay attention.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think we need to chew on the idea of a communications plan. It could be another public forum, maybe say up at the mountain. It could be an opportunity to include the second homeowners as well too. I know with people like,
Donuts.
what's that?
So donuts.
So done. That would double the attendance. Just say food will be served. All right. Okay.
Right, that could. Do we know when condominium associations hold their annual meetings? Don't most of them do it in the fall?
Most of them do it in the fall. I could easily get a list of those.
Yeah.
That would be great, because even if we don't go to those meetings, if we can get some materials put together, it could then either promote a public meeting or just spur more inquiry.
Right.
Well, yeah, I think, I mean, my thought, Randy, is in the direction of more is better. You know,
Yes,
more,
agreed.
in other words, use that as an opportunity to invite people. And, I don't know, it's where we get a big room at get the big room at the Grand Summit and invite people in, and as, Randy, as Ken said, serve pizza or donuts or whatever. Yeah. And say, come in and hear about what's going on.
Yeah. I think there's some opportunity for that.
Yeah.
I like that, in a general a general concept, I like it quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of hammering on that needs to happen, but I think as we look into the fall, whether it's around the condo association board meetings or whether it's something we use that as an opportunity to say, we're going to do this. And then,
We're two
and then
seconds from a forum.
well, we have a quorum because Richard Werner has wandered in.
I see that. Hello, Richard.
Hello, Richard Werner.
Hey, how are you, whoever?
That's Randy. Sorry, my iPad's having connection issues here tonight. So we're working on my phone back there is how they see you. So that's the theory. So Rich, just to catch you up without rehashing it too much. I did speak to Chrissy this afternoon. She has not gotten, she told me you talked to her. And she told me that she had not yet gotten back from the hydrologist, the scope and estimate of cost. The recommendations that we were discussing here were to get that done, to do some more data collection, so we have a more robust data set to kind of make some good decisions as to what the next steps would be, and then actually create a better or more robust communication strategy to let more people know, because we have such small attendance and any of the things we've been doing. It's a concern that not enough people know what's being considered. So we should, we need to come up with an idea how we do that. And that's probably not just the primary homeowners, but also the second homeowners as well too. So, while they won't have a vote, they are an important piece of the thought process. So
Don't ever think they don't have a vote if you don't believe it. Look at the North Branch Fire District.
wait, say again.
If you don't believe the second homeowners don't have a vote, look at what
Don't
happened to the
believe-
North Branch Fire District.
That's right, I
Don't-
don't follow the double.
There's a double negative in there. Do I think the second homeowners?
If you don't think they
Don't.
do, remember what happened to the North Branch Fire District.
Okay. All I can, well, I don't know. What's your point?
My point is that the second homeowners weren't happy, the
Yes.
condo owners.
Yes,
They took over the fire district.
yes.
And they changed things they weren't happy with, so I would never say that the second homeowners don't have a vote.
Well, they have a vote. They have an economic vote in this.
No, they
Yeah.
also, they get their act together, they can have a pretty important vote.
How do they have a vote?
Huh?
How do they have a vote?
How did they take over the North Branch Fire District?
Well, but they would not have a formal vote if this is a town.
Steve?
We know that it was all people from the condos. The board was made up of you from Kingswood, Steve from Seasons.
I wasn't in
Bob.
Kingswood at the time, by the way.
Oh, okay, well, you had been,
I was,
you were president at Kingswood.
I used to live,
And-
yes,
Well-
I used to live in a convent, but I wasn't I was a second homeowner back in two
No,
thousand
It
five.
does, I'm saying that the townhome, the condo developments
I-
do have enough people that could get onto a board into.
They could never become part of the town. They're not unless they moved here and registered to vote here. But in the context of this, they definitely
They might
have.
live in condos.
They might live in condos, but they would have to
But
become
they're-
residents
they're
and
not
register to
second
vote.
homeowners.
Yeah.
Well, there are plenty of condo owners who live here full
But-
time.
I
Right,
think,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah, and your
Yeah,
point is
I
well.
think that's the point.
Yeah, that's the point. And the point is well taken, that no matter what, whether they have a vote or not, they certainly have an economic interest in this.
Well, they can vote with their feet too.
They can vote with their feet,
You need
yes.
not to take them lightly.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes, I think I was about to say we're in violent agreement on this, maybe for different logic. Yeah,
It's all just semantics at this point.
You have to have Richie logic. If you don't have Richie logic, you might as well not even.
Not
Anyway,
even going there. After 30
Anyway.
years, Rich, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway,
Hey,
so yes, go ahead, Randy.
So one thing, and I want to spin this a different direction for a minute.
Mhm.
Somebody said at the public forum last month, and I don't remember if it was Steve or it doesn't matter, but that Snow Vita is planning or in the permitting process to build more units of sizable number, like 30 or 33, whatever somebody threw out. That's one thing we're missing, I think, in all this is what projects are being planned to come down the pipeline. And we should be talking to those developers. And how do we do that?
That-
I don't travel in those circles. Rich, you do to some degree. Ken, you do to some degree with the North Branch. How do we find out what their needs are and whether this system can work for them?
And that's part of the reason we did the first study was because, and that's why we had Wallace on the committee and Bob.
You're talking about 20 years ago. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, because,
Right.
and Mount Snow, because Mount Snow needed to build a water system for their master plan and we knew.
Well, and they still do. They've just abandoned the master plan for all intents and
Right, yeah,
purposes.
exactly.
Right.
And it's just, what's gonna happen, and it's what I've been saying all along, and nobody seems to catch on to, is that my water system's fine. Well, so was Snow Vita, so was all these other water systems were fine. And then something happens, the state
Right.
comes up with a new emerging contaminant. When I started 20 years ago, we weren't even talking about PFAS or PFAS.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's a major thing. I just sent you guys some invoices that we're doing with the state that, there's one association, $1.2 million, another association, $718,000. There's no association that's gonna pick that up. You go to even Timber Creek with 250 units and tell them you need to come up with $1.2 million to fix your water system,
Yes,
they're gonna run.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And there's no guarantee you're going to get that money from the state, is there?
No.
No.
Right.
So
Okay,
let's do this.
so-
I would modify what we were talking about before, that I think that in that part of the communication, the way we address this kind of stuff is through this communication strategy that we were talking about. We need to add one more constituent, which is Mount Snow. I know we have Dan on the committee, but I think we need to, actively get, have a discussion with Dan in the room and Leah there, and let's, make sure that that she understands, and anybody else in the Vail world who needs to understand this is what we're talking about, and see what their view is.
Well, and they may, yeah. I mean, I'm going to put words in her mouth. Yes, we need them a little more involved in the room. I agree with that.
Yes.
And particularly as it revolves around the master plan. Again, it's apples and oranges, but that's exactly what they did in Killington is they got the town, the mountain, and the major developer who's going to come in all on the same page. And that's why they could do a TIF district. And we can't do anything like that right now because we don't have everybody lined up in the same, the same row, basically.
Somebody tore up the page of Killington now. Because they put a halt on our system.
They put what?
They put a halt. They went
On the Killington system?
on the construction.
Really? When did that happen?
Wait, what was that?
This past week, Killington put as far as my understanding, they put a halt on the construction. Because they've gone through 3 town managers and they have nobody coordinating the money and the loans.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. Huh. I know the developer was going through an Act 250 revision because they were changing their designs, but
I didn't hear anything of what was just said.
Several of the select board members have left over problems with the water system.
Who is that talking?
That's Ken.
Oh,
Young,
okay.
sure.
I can't hear Ken at all.
So Ken, I'm going to paraphrase. Tell me if I get it wrong, so Sarah can hear. What Ken was saying, he heard that the Killington water system had been put on hold because of, it sounded like town manager were not doing a good job of controlling the spending process or something, so they put it on hold.
Well, they that could be because they suspended the town manager. I don't know. He had a clash with the select board or something.
Okay, so
The work is still ongoing because they have the bond, they have the state money. The work is still ongoing.
They have everything,
Yeah,
Right.
but I think
Okay.
Randy, if you have a laptop, I know Ken's trying to find it on his phone here, but if you have a laptop where you could look it up and share whatever.
Yeah,
article-
I have a good source at the Mountain Times. I'll go check that out right now.
Okay, cool. And then share that with everybody. That would be great. Anyway, so
It's partially faulted due to a turnover in town government,
okay.
portion.
Yeah. Well, we'll put Randy on the case is if you want to see what he can find.
Did the meeting start early or was I late?
You were 20 minutes late.
Oh, I thought it started at 5:30.
No, it's 5 o'clock.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I had it on my calendar at
Hey,
5:30.
you make me look good, though. Finance director and fire chief recently resigned, along with a select board member. All due to what some in town say is the toxic environment caused by the functional board.
Okay.
At town meeting this year, voters rejected the proposed budget. Now they're trying to figure out budget. And they have put some portion of the work on hold.
Okay. Well, we'll Randy, we'll put you on the case of seeing what you can do.
It's
Yeah, actually, I've got a story here from 3 weeks ago in the Mountain Times.
Okay.
Killington Forward has hit a roadblock with a consultant warning that excessive employee turnover may lead to delays for key parts of the project. And Stephanie Clark, she's the one who really is driving the town. She's the consultant. Yeah, but they actually haven't pulled the plug on it. They had an interim town manager. I'm just reading this. I'll send you guys a link to this.
Yes, let's send it to, let's not, yeah, let's just share that with everybody to read it, and we can certainly monitor that and see if you can find out any more.
Yeah, and now that I did that story for Sam, I know some of the players in this, so
Okay, great.
I'll send this around after the meeting.
So we don't make the
And
same
what happens
mistakes.
so that we can understand when ultimately the
Absolutely.
half a dozen people that show up at public meetings are going to ask the question.
Yes, right. That's good.
Well, somebody must have had you know
I just saw
But-
it posted on, I think I found it in Facebook connection.
Okay.
You know, I can tell you that just real quick on the communication thing, the Killington people have the same issue. You know, it's just short of tying somebody down and whispering it all in their ear, you just can't communicate with people directly.
Right. So it feels like we have to, as we said, invest in this, in developing a communication strategy, to cover those constituents and try to get the word out so everybody kind of knows where we are and what the next steps that we're considering.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and it, we should do everything we can do and let the chips fall where they do.
Yep. Agreed. So we're going to defer the other action. I'm sorry, Ken, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. You had something else?
More of, how much is the concern of the water shortage and how much is concern of water pollutants?
I think it's
Water shortage is very,
I think it's both, but I can't, yeah.
if it's water pollutants, then this is one of several solutions to that.
Yes.
And I think I mentioned at the last meeting.
Yeah.
That we need to have both sets of numbers.
Yeah.
In order to support, otherwise someone is gonna say, you can do it a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Maybe you can, I don't know. but,
Maybe you can. I did that. It's interesting you say that because Chrissy mentioned that when I talked to her today, and I think she said, she said, I don't know who talked about something like the point of use, RO filtration and things like that. She said that doesn't meet the requirements of the law with regard to
for
public water systems,
It
right?
does for a private home. A
Yeah.
private home, they
Yeah.
don't care.
They don't care.
If
But-
you're drinking straight up gasoline.
And those are
Right.
the questions.
Yeah, those are the questions we need to ask. So this is the point is I think that's part of the scoping of the study is how do we get smart on those, on both the quality and the availability issues?
I don't know if we really care about the quality as much as we care about the quantity. Because you can always treat it some way, whatever you have, but if you don't have anything to treat.
I'm sorry, could I ask that the people in the room talk louder?
Yep, speak up, Rich. She wants to.
I wasn't saying anything, I was just musing to myself and singing a song, sorry.
Uh-huh.
I think what I would say is I think the answer is yes, these are both concerns. I don't think we have to prioritize them here. That's, yeah. So, does anyone have any other thoughts as to actions beyond those two things? Those are the things that were specifically mentioned in Chrissy's report at the end in the conclusions. That stuff I read at the beginning of the meeting, because that's why I wanted to read it. I'm like, okay, these are the recommendations and conclusions, or conclusions and recommendations. Does anyone have any other thoughts of other things we should be considering in terms of additional actions in next steps?
Well, I think we should think about, where do we go with our communication strategy? What's the next level? As we just talked about. And, we've sort of got the engineering side pulled together right now, waiting, obviously we're in a little bit of a holding pattern, but we don't really have the communication strategy pulled together. And I don't have the answers right now, right here, but I think we need to talk a little more about that as we go forward.
So Randy, I'm gonna look, since you're the person I can see besides these two guys that are here. This feels to me like it may be extraordinarily close to some of your experience in the media world and media and communications world. If we were to have a little committee that leads this effort, maybe you and I can have a side discussion to see if we do that. That way we don't all have to
Yes.
go working all the same things.
So just.
Yes, I agree with that. I don't think we need to involve everybody with that. In fact, I think that would be counterproductive.
Okay.
But
Go ahead.
Randy, I moved closer to the computer so that Sarah could hear me.
Yes, you
Thank
did.
And so anyways, I got thinking is, we should take a lesson from the study group for, Marlboro, Dover and Wardsboro for the school. And maybe, instead of doing more testing and spending money on that, maybe what we need to do is spend more money on communications like we did with that program and have a dedicated person who can help us with that.
Actually,
And-
Rich, I think that's actually a really good idea. And that did help with the Act 46 study committee. There's no question about that.
Right, and where you can go to send questions, how we respond to them. So I think that we ought to just take instead of reinventing the wheel, just take something from that playbook.
Yeah. And you guys, the rest of you don't really probably know exactly what Rich and I are talking about, but that really worked really well 10 years ago, and we had a good person involved, and whether that's her or somebody else, we can talk a little more about that, but
Yeah,
that was a good strategy.
I forget who it was that suggested to me, and maybe this is the same thing you guys are thinking, that VLCT might have a resource for us in terms of moderating, or be able to refer us to one.
It was
No, this is not that at all.
Okay, this is something else. Okay.
This is something we basically hired a marketing specialist.
Oh, okay. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that those are exclusive though, Rich.
What's that?
I don't think
No,
that no, I think these are an and. And if you look at Chrissy's report, they're an and.
I was just gonna say, I gotta run, but I think that we really need to, I think that maybe we should, Randy, I think you should put together something that we can talk about as a committee to make a recommendation, because it is an expenditure.
Yeah.
And I think that if we can talk about what we did with that, and the only other thing is, I don't care one way or another whether you get a water system or not, or whether we do, I think there's a lot of good reasons for it, and I think a lot of people have a lot of reasons why we shouldn't. But I just want to make sure too that our communications are neutral. It's facts, not,
Well, and I think we've done a good job of staying there.
yeah, but I think when you bring in like a VLCT to do something like that, I don't think you get that.
Okay.
That's what I really liked about our plan we did for the school. We did not go out and say, this is a good thing. It was all about facts and getting the information out in a way for people to get the information back to the group, the study group. And that's why I think when I was thinking, that's why I moved up, because when you guys were talking about that, it really said this would work good.
Yeah.
Well, but Richard, you do recall that eventually we did make a recommendation to the town.
Right, we did, and even at and we also made recommendations but the whole study was not, we weren't focused
Correct.
on we were focused to get to somewhere, and that was to have a vote of the towns. But
Correct.
even when you look at what happened is there were 3 towns and there was 2 different outcomes, two
Mhm.
towns voted yes and one voted no.
Right. I mean, I think you're right, Rich. I think we have really tried to kind of stay in that lane of we're assembling information. We're trying to be objective. We want people to make a very well-informed decision. At some point, we will end up being asked to make recommendations, but
I think that's.
but that's down the road. Right. Yeah, that's down the road.
I think
Yeah.
right now we're still in the information
Yes.
gathering and
Yeah.
distributing.
And communications. Yeah, and making sure people understand it.
And
I
I would
think there
be,
is some thought in town, in certain circles, that the task force is in favor of the water project. I
We're
read
never,
that.
yeah.
Someone mentioned it at one of the public meetings.
Yeah.
Said obviously you're in favor of it, and we tried to correct it.
oh,
And someone also mentioned it, maybe it was the same person, but I started an editorial also.
Oh.
An allusion to,
Yeah.
the committees that they were trying.
All we can do in that regard is everybody here, remember, every time somebody asks you about it, we're not in favor or against, we're trying to work through to analyze and develop the information so everyone can make a well-informed
it
opinion.
doesn't matter what
Full
you
stop.
say.
Yeah, they're always, people are gonna
saying
think,
they-
but that's all we can do, right?
Hmm.
No, okay, got it, I understand.
You can't make people believe you.
Yeah, you can't make people believe you. Yeah. So Rich is having to leave now, but I don't think we had any other items in the agenda. We don't have minutes available yet, I don't think, from the forum.
No, we don't.
So we can't do that. So unless anyone has anything else, I think we can adjourn for the day.
So let me just make clear, because I think Rich's ask of me was to pull some ballpark numbers together on what having a consultant, a communication specialist, whatever you want to describe it as, is something that we should do. And I'm happy to do that.
Yeah,
Is that right, Richard?
he just left, so
Oh.
let's take that as a yes.
Okay, that's fine. And I'm happy to do that.
Okay. I do have one other thing. I do have one procedural thing. We were all appointed, believe it or not, it has been 2 years since we were appointed. I'm going to send out emails to everyone if you want to respond to me individually, whether you would like to be reappointed because our terms end in September.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
So here's
God.
your chance to get away, but I could just say I never got your email. Sorry.
Okay.
So we have to go to the select board and be reappointed in September. So be aware, you'll hear from me about that. This is your
Right.
chance. Anything else that anyone has?
Move to adjourn.
Second,
So recorded,
and we don't have to vote.
No.
and I am stopping the recording. Stop recording.